SCP Containment Breach was a classic horror game that many of us grew up with. All these murder monsters fascinated but also terrified us playing this game. The dark industrial atmosphere of the world, along with the grainy 2009 style models and textures, made this game's horror that much more intense. The lengths that Containment Breach took to be scary was such a memorable part of our childhoods that it's a huge part of what we associate the SCP brand with. Because of that, people debate to this day how important horror should be for modern SCP games, but that's a topic for another video. The reason I bring it up here is because one of the scariest parts of playing Containment Breach isn't any of the SCPs. I find the MTF soldiers to be a far more terrifying encounter than any of these creatures. The reason for this is simple. It's because of the gun they carry around. The monster SCPs, such as 173, 106, and 939, all have to close the distance in order to hurt the player. This gives you methods of counterplay in ways that involve keeping that distance open. But if you get spotted by an MTF, there is no dodging or running from a bullet. It is a good thing they don't show up until the latter half of the game, because they are so much more difficult to deal with. Once you know they're around, you're constantly on edge. Containment Breach has a scripted event at the containment zone of SCP-895, where a guard falls from above and drops their weapon in the process. You, the player, are unable to pick up this weapon and use it yourself. This is an intentional design choice. Being able to shoot back at enemies would significantly reduce the horror aspect of the game. However, many modern SCP games do include guns as an integral part of their gameplay loop. SCP Secret Laboratory, 5K, and a number of Containment Breach mods have all explored varying types of gunplay. How much does that affect the vibe of an SCP game? If an SCP game is going to have guns, what type of gunplay would be most fitting? SCP Nine Tailed Fox is a Containment Breach mod where you play as a mobile task force unit with the mission to contain SCPs and neutralize loose D-Class. Basically, you're the spooky soldier I was just talking about. Conveniently, 106 sends you to the pocket dimension at the very start of the game, taking away all your items, forcing you to restart from scratch. This was a clever way to maintain the horror of an SCP game, because it leaves you vulnerable for an extended period until you can restock on equipment. There is also a multiplayer mode, but the game isn't very populated and I wasn't able to find a server to give that a try. I mean, the gameplay is simple enough, appears to be a hit-scan system with pistols, shotguns, and machine guns. I like it. I wish the game in general had more content and an ending to the story, but I think they made the right decision, keeping the gunplay very basic. I also like that you are limited on what entities you are able to kill. I guess there's a little bit of redundancy, but not so much that it noticeably worsens my experience. I look forward to seeing this mod reach completion. The one small thing I don't like about the gun system right now is the availability of ammunition. From what I've played, the main way of restocking ammunition is by killing roaming D-Class and taking their weapons. Having all these different guns in your inventory eventually takes up a lot of inventory space. I wish I could just take the ammunition and give it to the gun I already have. I mean, you can do that if the D-Class happens to have the same gun as you, but that's usually not the case. I think, for example, these storage rooms could be good places to hold 9mm or 5.56 rounds that you could give to any of your weapons that accept those ammo types. Overall, though, the simplicity and limited importance of the system is something I appreciate about this mod. I can't say the same for SCP-5K. SCP-5K has... SCP-5K has dozens of different guns with dozens of different attachments to choose from, and they all have extremely similar functionality. In general, I tend to just not like games that do this, and I think SCP games are especially a bad fit. I bought 5K because I want to experience SCP-related content. I anticipate hearing about a new SCP entity or item way more than a new gun, because you can't trick me. Gamers, don't be fooled when a game studio adds a new weapon to their game and attempts to sell it as new content. All they did was copy and paste the same systems they used for their old weapons, slightly change a few numbers, and made a new model for it. There's nothing interesting or meaningful about a reskinned assault rifle with slightly less recoil and a little more fire rate. There's nothing about the 15th option for a scope that improves the experience in any significant way. The only thing this accomplishes is bloating the game with a bunch of useless stuff it doesn't need, all at the expense of valuable development resources. Look at this screen. I don't care. I don't want to spend 5 minutes customizing my loadout. I just want to play already. This is absolutely obnoxious and distracts from the gameplay. If Affray Interactive wants to add a flamethrower weapon as a means of dealing with the new 610 entities, that's something I'll get excited about. I am so glad that SCP Secret Laboratory isn't like this. Most of the weapons in SL feel pretty unique in terms of functionality. When a new weapon gets added like SCP-127, there's actual weight to that decision. Come to think of it, SL has went through several gun reworks now, haven't they? They started off with those plasma guns, then they added a bunch of different stuff replacing them. And now we have an even bigger replacement with a Parabellum update. Personally, I like the Scopophobia version of SL's gunplay more than the modern version. I don't know, man, all the different ammo types, the attachments, the recoil patterns, it's a lot to learn and keep note of. How the hell did I just turn a revolver into a sniper?
Just why is this system so much more demanding and difficult? We went from a simple weapon system with some basic customization, which any player could master in a short time frame, to a system straight out of 2021 Rust, which is overly confusing for new players and massively increases the skill floor.
The latest gun rework sparked a debate around whether the direction of SL is becoming too competitive at the expense of casual play. Fixed recoil patterns are actually one of the things that turn me off to Rust. I can't be bothered to learn that shit. I want to play the game, not practice on a target all day. That's just not the kind of gamer I am. I think you can make a competitive SCP game. There is potential for that type of experience. But I think there are more fun and interesting ways to do that than forcing the player to aim train. I feel like SCP games right now center too much of the experience around the guns. Yes, these are shooter games. Guns are going to play an important role. But there are so many unique qualities of the SCP franchise that I don't think get explored enough through the gameplay. It's rare to see anyone playing on PvP servers in SCP-5K. I think one reason for that is because it's nothing more than a shooter team deathmatch. And that alone, without any SCP flavor, just isn't very interesting. When it comes to dealing with SCPs in Secret Lab, Northwood decided that the only method of doing so will be through gunfire. This is despite many of these SCPs having canonically established weaknesses and special containment procedures that they just don't take ideas from. For Christ's sake, the main new addition to their latest update was a gun SCP. In my opinion, it is an enormous waste of potential for these SCP games to prioritize shooter mechanics over the countless creative possibilities of mechanics unique to SCP that make Containment Breach so special in the first place. Which is why I'm so grateful for the new SCP game, Fragmented Minds. SCP Fragmented Minds is a new SCP story game that uses a combination of parkour, puzzles, melee combat, and stealth to create a very immersive experience telling a story at Site-113, planet Mars. I have about 2 hours of playtime in the game so far, and I have not seen a single gun yet. This is amazing. It's a great example of how you don't need to depend on guns to make a fun SCP game. Fragmented Minds is a breath of fresh air that this franchise really needed, and I look forward to seeing it continue development. In my SCP game, currently being developed in Godot, there are going to be guns. However, the importance of them is going to be significantly reduced. So far, I have implemented basic systems for a pistol, SMG, shotgun, sniper, rocket launcher, and a few more. I made the horizontal recoil on automatic weapons completely randomized. This forces the player to use these guns at the ranges they're intended for. No learning a preset recoil pattern and spraying from miles away. We don't do that here. In SL, the player has inventory slots dedicated to carrying ammunition that exists separately from the main inventory that carries items. In 5K, all your ammunition is instead stored within the gun itself. I guess that makes the most sense for the type of game 5K is. I made my game's ammunition to take up actual space in the player's inventory, with a current maximum slot capacity of just 30. This is going to significantly nerf the player's ability to depend on their gun, particularly during combat with SCPs. I'm going to actually utilize the SCP's weaknesses for a change to create unique gameplay scenarios. Some SCPs are going to be immune to gunfire entirely, and even for the ones that won't be, I don't want it to be the first option players go for. I want players to make an actual effort to contain the SCPs. Now more than ever is an extremely important period for SCP games like Fragmented Minds to get some love. Look, let's be realistic, Northwood is not going to walk back the gun rework. They put way too much time into that update to change it back now. They're not going to make any SCPs immune to bullets. 5K is not going to remove 70% of their weapon sandbox. No matter what you or I think, these teams have their own creative visions for where they want to take their games, and it is important that they are able to see those visions through. However, it can come at the expense of ideas that us, the fans, might have for an SCP game because of the current state this franchise is in. Next video about SCP, I'm going to be talking about how the SCP gaming community has become over-centralized around just a single game, the consequences of that, and presenting cases for and against the argument of considering it a monopoly. If that video topic is something you would find interesting, be sure to subscribe to this channel. Before ending the video, I'd like to give a shout out to the SCP SL server Sped Chambers for letting me use their server to film shots for this video. For the past couple episodes, I've been asking for an SCP SL server to give me the moderator perms necessary for many recordings, and someone actually came through. Because of this, I was able to heavily increase the quality of this video. Sped Chambers is currently a very low pop server and are trying to build a community of consistent players. I encourage all of you to start playing over there. I think having a consistent player base of at least 15 to 18 people will make it a very fun place to hang out. It will also give me even more opportunities to make even more creative high quality shots. I will provide resources in the description for you to access this server.